Power isn't what most people think it is. It's not money, though money helps. It's not status, though status matters. Real power is the ability to walk away from anything without losing a piece of yourself in the process. The unmarried man possesses this power in its purest form, and everyone around him feels it, even if they can't articulate what they're sensing. Schopenhauer recognized this centuries ago when he observed that the man who needs nothing from you is the man you cannot control. The bachelor who's built his life on his own terms, who's refused the conventional script of marriage and family, who's maintained his autonomy against tremendous social pressure. This man operates from a position of strength that married men can only fantasize about during their most honest moments. I'm going to break down exactly why this power exists, how it manifests in everyday interactions, and why it terrifies the systems designed to domesticate masculine energy into productive servitude. The first thing you need to understand is that power flows from independence. Not the pretend independence of a man who has a wife at home managing his life while he plays at being autonomous. Real independence. The kind where your decisions are yours alone, where your time belongs to you, where your resources serve your purposes. The unmarried man wakes up every morning with complete sovereignty over his day. Nobody needs him to be anywhere, do anything, or become someone other than who he already is. This fundamental freedom creates a psychological state that others can perceive instantly. When you talk to a truly independent man, you're not negotiating with someone who has to check with anyone else. You're dealing with a complete decision-making unit. That immediacy, that clarity of will, that's power in its most concentrated form. Watch how differently people treat an unmarried man versus a married one in professional settings. The married man has visible obligations. Everyone knows he needs the job, needs the income, needs the stability, because people depend on him. He can be pressured, manipulated, leveraged through his responsibilities. The unmarried man, he might want the job, but the need is qualitatively different. He can walk away. He can take risks. He can tell difficult truths because the consequences of losing this particular opportunity don't cascade through multiple lives. Employers sense this, and it makes them nervous. A man who doesn't need you will negotiate harder, demand more, and refuse to accept treatment that married men swallow daily because they have no choice. Schopenhauer spent considerable time analyzing the nature of desire and how it enslaves us. Marriage, in his view, was the ultimate enslavement to desire, the biological will to life using romantic love and sexual attraction to trap individuals into reproductive servitude. The unmarried man who's seen through this mechanism and consciously rejected it has achieved a philosophical liberation that most people never even attempt. He's not driven by the need to attract a mate, maintain a relationship, or secure family stability. His motivations are his own, chosen rather than imposed by evolutionary drives. This creates a different quality of human being, someone operating from genuine preference rather than biological compulsion. The sexual dimension of this power is particularly significant. The married man's access to sex is controlled entirely by one person, who holds complete monopoly power over that aspect of his life. His wife can grant or withhold intimacy based on her mood, her satisfaction with his performance as a husband, her stress levels, her hormonal cycles, whatever factors influence her at any given moment. The married man is in a position of perpetual supplication, always somewhat dependent on her willingness to meet his needs. The unmarried man faces no such constraint. He can pursue sexual variety, can walk away from any particular woman without cost, can maintain abundance mentality because no single person controls his access to intimacy. Women perceive this immediately. They sense that he doesn't need them specifically, which paradoxically makes him more attractive and gives him more leverage in any interaction. Think about how this plays out in daily negotiations, both large and small. The married man at a social gathering is always somewhat constrained by his wife's presence and preferences. He can't talk too long to attractive women. He can't stay out too late. He can't pursue friendships or opportunities that his wife finds threatening or inconvenient. His behavior is constantly moderated by someone else's judgment. The unmarried man moves through the same social space with complete freedom. He talks to whoever interests him. He stays as long as he wants. He pursues connections based purely on his own assessment of their value. Other people notice this freedom and are drawn to it because freedom is magnetic. Power attracts. The financial power of the unmarried man cannot be overstated. His income is entirely his own. After covering his personal expenses, which are typically modest compared to family obligations, everything else is discretionary. He can invest aggressively, take entrepreneurial risks, build wealth at a rate that married men supporting families cannot match. More importantly, his financial decisions don't require consensus. He doesn't need to justify purchases, explain investments, or compromise on financial strategy. This allows for much more decisive and aggressive wealth building. The married man watches his higher income get absorbed by family expenses, while the unmarried man with lower income builds actual wealth because he keeps what he earns. Before we go further, I want to know where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments. I'm building a global community of men who think differently about power and freedom. Schopenhauer argued that suffering comes from unfulfilled desire, and that the wise person minimizes desire to minimize suffering. The unmarried man who's genuinely content with his autonomy has achieved something philosophically profound. He's escaped the cycle of desire that drives most people. He doesn't desire marriage because he understands what it actually is, rather than what it's advertised to be. He doesn't desire children because he recognizes that creating dependence doesn't serve his interests. He doesn't desire the conventional markers of success because he's defined success on his own terms. This philosophical clarity gives him a kind of invulnerability. You can't manipulate someone through desires they don't have. The social power manifests in unexpected ways. The unmarried man is invited to things that married men aren't. He's included in adventures that require freedom and flexibility. He becomes the interesting person in social circles because he has experiences and perspectives that domesticated men lack. He's traveled more, taken more risks, maintained more diverse friendships, explored more of life's possibilities. When he speaks, people listen because his life experience is richer and less predictable than the married man's routine existence. He has stories where married men have responsibilities. Stories are power in social contexts. Consider the negotiating advantage in romantic relationships. When a woman is interested in a high-value unmarried man, she's competing against his freedom, his other options, and his complete lack of need for any particular relationship. She has to bring genuine value to his life, has to enhance rather than constrain his existence, because he has no biological clock pressuring him, no social pressure that outweighs his preference for autonomy, no loneliness desperate enough to make him settle. He's negotiating from abundance while she's negotiating from scarcity, especially if she's approaching or past 30 and feeling biological imperatives. The power imbalance is total, and both parties feel it. The unmarried man's time is his most valuable asset, and he controls it completely. He can pursue mastery in any domain that interests him because he has the hours necessary for deep practice. He can build businesses, develop skills, create art, study philosophy, whatever calls to him. The married man's time is fractured into small segments between obligations, never enough to achieve flow states or sustained focus on challenging projects. This difference compounds over years. The unmarried man becomes genuinely excellent at chosen pursuits while the married man remains perpetually intermediate at everything because he can't dedicate the time required for mastery. Excellence is power. Mediocrity is weakness. Schopenhauer believed that the individual will was constantly in conflict with the universal will, the blind striving of nature that uses individuals as tools for its own purposes. The unmarried man represents individual will asserting itself against nature's programming. He's refusing to be a tool for species continuation. He's insisting that his individual existence and happiness matter more than biology's demands. This is a radical act, though society frames it as selfish or immature. In reality, it's the most mature possible position, recognizing that your life is finite and precious, and refusing to sacrifice it to forces that don't care whether you personally thrive or suffer. The health advantages translate to power as well. The unmarried man typically maintains better physical condition because he has time for exercise, money for quality food, and the mental space to prioritize wellness. He looks better, feels better, and projects more vitality than married peers who are ground down by chronic stress and sleep deprivation. Physical presence is power. When the unmarried man walks into a room, he typically looks more vital and attractive than the married men present, which affects how everyone responds to him. Women notice. Men notice. The subtle status hierarchies adjust accordingly. The intellectual power deserves special attention. The unmarried man can maintain a serious intellectual life. He can read difficult books, engage with complex ideas, pursue understanding for its own sake, rather than for practical application. This creates a depth of thought and sophistication of perspective that married men rarely achieve because they don't have the cognitive space for it. Their minds are cluttered with logistics and obligations. The unmarried man's mind is free to roam, to wonder, to question. When conversations turn serious, he often has more interesting things to say because he's actually thinking about big questions rather than just surviving day to day. The professional flexibility is another dimension of power. The unmarried man can relocate for opportunity. He can switch careers entirely if something more interesting appears. He can take sabbaticals to pursue projects or learning. He can work intensely for periods when something matters to him, then ease back when he wants rest. The married man is locked into whatever provides stable income and benefits for the family. He can't risk disruption. He can't chase interesting opportunities that might not pan out. He's stuck on a track that he probably chose in his 20s and now has to ride until retirement, regardless of whether it still serves him. The unmarried man redesigns his professional life whenever he wants. That adaptability is tremendous power in a changing economy. Schopenhauer observed that most people live in a kind of sleep, following scripts written by biology and society without ever questioning whether those scripts serve them. The unmarried man who's consciously chosen his path has woken up. He's seen the matrix, recognized the programming, and opted out. This awakened state gives him insight into human behavior that sleeping people lack. He understands the games being played because he's no longer a player. He sees the motivations driving others because he's examined and rejected those same motivations in himself. This clarity is power. Knowing what's actually happening while others remain confused gives you decisive advantages in every interaction. The emotional independence might be the most crucial element. The married man needs his wife's approval, her affection, her validation. His emotional state is significantly dependent on whether she's happy with him. The unmarried man's emotional state is self-generated. He doesn't need anyone's approval or validation. He's not walking on eggshells trying to manage someone else's mood. He's not adapting his personality to maintain domestic harmony. He is who he is, consistently, without apology or modulation based on someone else's reactions. This emotional sovereignty is incredibly powerful. People sense that they can't manipulate him through approval or withdrawal of affection, which forces them to deal with him on more honest terms. The unmarried man's relationship with risk fundamentally differs from the married man's, and this creates massive power differentials in practical terms. When an opportunity appears that carries significant risk with potentially massive reward, the married man has to decline. Too many people depend on his stability. He can't gamble with the family's security. The unmarried man can take the risk because he's only gambling with his own future. If it fails, he's the only one who suffers the consequences. If it succeeds, he captures all the upside. This willingness to take asymmetric risks, where potential gains far exceed potential losses, is how real wealth and power get built. The married man is structurally prevented from accessing these opportunities. Consider entrepreneurship specifically. Starting a business requires years of uncertain income, long hours, and intense focus. The married man attempting this faces constant pressure from a wife who wants stability and children who need resources. His business becomes another source of marital conflict. He's trying to build something transformative while managing domestic dissatisfaction with the instability and time demands. Most married men attempting entrepreneurship eventually abandon it or settle for a small lifestyle business that doesn't require the all-in commitment that creates real success. The unmarried man can go all in. He can work 18-hour days for years if necessary. He can survive on minimal income, while reinvesting everything into growth. He has no one questioning his choices or demanding he prioritize family time over business building. This is why you see disproportionate numbers of highly successful entrepreneurs who either never married or divorced early. Schopenhauer understood that renunciation was a path to power. By renouncing what others desperately cling to, you free yourself from the vulnerabilities that clinging creates. The unmarried man has renounced the comfort and security that marriage supposedly provides. In doing so, he's freed himself from the costs that comfort extracts. He's embraced a degree of aloneness and self-reliance that terrifies most people. But that terror is precisely what creates his power. He's walked through the fire that others avoid, and it burned away his weaknesses. What remains is stronger than what most men ever develop because most men never test themselves against genuine solitude and self-sufficiency. The geographical freedom represents another power dimension. The unmarried man can live anywhere. If opportunities are better in another city or country, he moves. If he wants to experience different cultures, he goes. If his current location no longer serves him, he leaves. The married man is geographically locked by his wife's career, her proximity to family, the kids' schools, the social network they've built. He's trapped in place even if that place is slowly suffocating him, even if better opportunities exist elsewhere, even if he'd thrive in a different environment. The unmarried man optimizes his location continuously, always positioning himself where life is best for him. This mobility allows him to arbitrage differences between locations, living well in low-cost areas, or earning high incomes in expensive ones, whatever serves his current strategy. The power dynamic in casual relationships deserves examination. When the unmarried man dates, he's completely honest that he's not seeking marriage or long-term commitment. This clarity, while initially disappointing to women seeking commitment, actually creates a specific kind of power in the relationship that develops. The woman knows where she stands. She knows he's not going to be trapped or manipulated into commitment. If she chooses to continue seeing him, it's because the relationship provides value on its own terms, not as a path to something else. This creates much more authentic interactions. She's not performing or strategizing. He's not being deceived about her intentions. The power lies in the honesty and the clear boundaries that can't be crossed through manipulation. Schopenhauer argued that most human misery comes from unfulfilled expectations. The unmarried man who's clear about what he's offering sets appropriate expectations from the beginning. He doesn't promise futures he won't deliver. He doesn't create hopes he'll disappoint. This radical honesty about his intentions and limitations prevents the accumulated resentment that poisons most long-term relationships. Women might initially want more from him, but they know he's been honest. They can't claim deception when he never promised what they wanted. This protection from false accusation and manufactured grievance is significant power in an era where men are vulnerable to retrospective reframing of relationships. The creative power available to the unmarried man often goes unrecognized. Creative work requires large blocks of uninterrupted time, mental energy that isn't depleted by other demands, and freedom from the constant interruptions that family life generates. The unmarried man can structure his life around creative production. He can write for 6 hours straight. He can enter flow states that last all day. He can pursue artistic visions that require years of dedicated effort. Many of history's greatest creative achievements came from unmarried men, or men who subordinated marriage to their work. The married man trying to create while managing family obligations produces inferior work, or abandons the attempt entirely. The difference in creative output over a lifetime is staggering. The philosophical power needs deeper examination. Schopenhauer himself embodied this, remaining unmarried and producing philosophical works of lasting significance. The unmarried man has time for contemplation, for reading, for thinking deeply about existence and meaning. He can pursue wisdom rather than just practical knowledge. This philosophical development creates a different kind of human being, someone who's examined fundamental questions and arrived at considered positions, rather than just accepting whatever beliefs were convenient or socially approved. When the unmarried man speaks about life, relationships, meaning, or purpose, he's typically thought more carefully about these topics than married men who've been too busy surviving to think deeply about whether their lives make sense. The legacy question reveals interesting power dynamics. Married men often justify their choices by talking about legacy, about children carrying forward their values and genes. But this is largely illusion. Most children barely remember their grandparents and won't remember their great-grandparents at all. Genetic legacy dilutes rapidly. Within a few generations, your specific contribution is negligible. The unmarried man pursuing excellence in his field, creating work that influences others, building institutions or ideas that persist, he's actually creating more enduring legacy than the married man whose children will mostly forget him within 50 years of his death. Impact is legacy, not biology. The unmarried man who focuses on impact has more power to shape the future than the married man who mistakes reproduction for significance. The crisis resistance of the unmarried man provides practical power. When economic downturns occur, when industries collapse, when pandemics shut down normal life, the unmarried man adapts quickly. He has minimal overhead, few dependencies, and complete decision-making authority. He can relocate, retrain, pivot entirely if necessary. The married man is locked into maintaining a certain income level to support family expenses. He can't adapt as quickly because adaptation requires agreement from multiple parties with different risk tolerances and needs. The unmarried man's agility in crisis situations often allows him to find opportunities where married men see only threats. Crisis accelerates the power differential between flexible and inflexible actors. Schopenhauer believed that the wise person recognized the essential suffering of existence, but found ways to transcend it through aesthetic contemplation and philosophical understanding. The unmarried man has the time and mental space for these transcendent experiences. He can lose himself in art, nature, music, ideas. He can pursue the sublime because he's not constantly dragged back to mundane concerns about family logistics. This capacity for transcendence, for experiencing beauty and meaning beyond daily survival, this is a kind of power that married men rarely access. They're too busy, too tired, too mentally fragmented to achieve the sustained attention that transcendent experiences require. The political power of the unmarried man operates subtly. He can speak truth without fear of consequences cascading to dependence. He can take unpopular positions because he doesn't need social approval to maintain domestic peace. He can ally with whoever shares his actual values rather than whoever's safe or socially acceptable. Throughout history, revolutionaries and reformers have often been unmarried men who could risk everything because they weren't risking anyone else's security. The married man is conservative almost by necessity. He can't afford the consequences of radical positions. The unmarried man can be as radical as truth requires. The psychological resilience created by genuine independence cannot be overestimated. The unmarried man has proven to himself that he can survive and thrive alone. He's faced the existential terror of being truly responsible for himself with no fallback, and he's conquered it. This creates a baseline confidence that married men who've always had someone to rely on never develop. When challenges arise, the unmarried man knows with certainty that he can handle them, because he's handled everything else without help. That self-trust is tremendous psychological power. He doesn't doubt his capacity. He doesn't need reassurance. He knows what he's capable of because he's already done it. The unmarried man's relationship with material possessions reveals another power aspect. He's typically not encumbered by excessive possessions because he maintains mobility and simplicity. What he does own, he chose deliberately for its utility or beauty. He's not surrounded by compromise purchases and family accumulation. This material simplicity translates to mental clarity. He's not managing complex household systems. He's not maintaining property for others' benefit. His possessions serve him rather than him serving his possessions. This freedom from material burden allows faster movement and clearer thinking. The unmarried man's advantage in information gathering and processing provides significant strategic power. He can attend conferences, pursue learning opportunities, travel to meet interesting people, all without negotiating with a partner or abandoning family responsibilities. He can stay current in his fields of interest because he has time to read, listen, watch, and engage with new ideas. The married man falls behind because he doesn't have discretionary time for continuous learning. In knowledge economies, staying current is essential. The unmarried man maintains cutting-edge understanding, while married peers become gradually obsolete in their thinking. Knowledge is power, and the unmarried man has structural advantages in knowledge acquisition. Schopenhauer noted that the greatest minds throughout history often lived apart from conventional society, pursuing their work in relative solitude. The unmarried man can create this kind of focused existence. He can design his days around intellectual production rather than social obligation. He can choose isolation when it serves his purposes, and society when he wants stimulation. This control over social exposure versus solitude allows him to optimize his mental state for whatever he's trying to accomplish. The married man has no such control. His social life is largely dictated by family and spousal needs, his solitude limited to stolen moments rather than designed blocks of productive isolation. The spiritual dimension deserves consideration. Many spiritual traditions recognize that advanced practice requires freedom from worldly entanglements. The unmarried man can pursue spiritual development seriously because he has time for meditation, contemplation, retreats, and study. He can restructure his entire life around spiritual goals if that becomes important to him. The married man approaching spiritual questions late in life discovers that family obligations prevent serious practice. He can't disappear for month-long retreats. He can't adopt practices that require significant time or lifestyle changes. The unmarried man has spiritual mobility that married men lack. In traditions that value enlightenment or transcendence, the unmarried state is often considered prerequisite to serious advancement. The power of present moment awareness comes easier to the unmarried man. Without constant mental load of family logistics and obligations, his attention can rest more fully in whatever he's currently experiencing. He can have conversations where he's genuinely present, rather than partially distracted by worries about what needs handling at home. He can enjoy experiences fully, rather than through the filter of family scheduling and resource constraints. This quality of presence makes him more enjoyable to be around, more effective in relationships and business dealings, and more capable of accessing insight that requires undistracted awareness. Schopenhauer's concept of the will to life as a blind force using individuals for reproductive purposes finds its clearest resistance in the unmarried man. He represents conscious choice against biological programming. The power in this choice is the power of consciousness itself, of human rationality, asserting itself against animal drives. He's proof that men can transcend their programming, that we're not simply slaves to evolutionary imperatives. This symbolic power matters beyond individual circumstances. Every unmarried man living well demonstrates to other men that the conventional path is optional, that freedom remains possible, that different choices lead to different and potentially superior outcomes. The negotiating power in all life domains comes from the unmarried man's ultimate willingness to walk away. In career situations, relationships, business deals, social arrangements, he can always choose exit over compromise. This isn't bluff or posture. He genuinely can leave anything that stops serving him. This creates what negotiators call BATNA, best alternative to negotiated agreement. His alternative to any deal is maintaining his current freedom, which is already good. Therefore, he only accepts deals that improve on that baseline. The married man's alternative to most negotiations is disrupting family stability, which is terrible. Therefore, he accepts worse deals because he has no good exit option. Over lifetime, these negotiating advantages compound into vastly different outcomes. The physical freedom to move through the world without permission or coordination gives the unmarried man spontaneous opportunity access. If an interesting event is happening across town tonight, he goes. If someone invites him on a trip leaving tomorrow, he can accept. If a business opportunity requires immediate response, he responds immediately. The married man has to check schedules, get buy-in, coordinate coverage for family obligations. By the time he can respond, opportunities have often closed. The unmarried man's response time to opportunity is orders of magnitude faster. In competitive environments, speed is decisive. The unmarried man operates inside the married man's decision loop, consistently accessing opportunities before married competitors can even get approval to pursue them. Schopenhauer argued that most people live in constant want, always desiring what they don't have, and barely appreciating what they do have. The unmarried man who's genuinely content with his autonomy escapes this trap. He has what he wants: freedom. He's not constantly yearning for something else. This contentment is visible and attractive. People sense that he's satisfied rather than grasping. This makes him magnetic in ways that desperate, wanting people never achieve. His power comes partially from not needing more power. He's complete in himself, which paradoxically draws more to him. The mentorship dynamic reveals how the unmarried man's power extends across generations. Younger men seeking guidance often find better mentors in unmarried successful men than in married ones. The unmarried mentor has more time to invest in mentees, fewer conflicts of interest, and frankly, more interesting life experience to share. He can be honest about trade-offs and costs of different paths because he's not defending his own choices. The married mentor inevitably pushes marriage because admitting it was a poor choice would be too psychologically threatening. The unmarried mentor can present options honestly. This makes him more valuable to younger men and extends his influence into the next generation more effectively than biological reproduction would. The emotional stability of the unmarried man who's built genuine self-sufficiency provides power in unstable times. When others are panicking about relationship disruptions or family crises, he remains centered because his well-being doesn't depend on others' choices or behaviors. He's not devastated by breakups because no relationship is central to his life structure. He's not destroyed by others' betrayals because he doesn't trust his well-being to anyone else's loyalty. This emotional independence allows clear thinking during others' chaos. When everyone else is reactive and emotional, he remains strategic and calm. This differential creates opportunities for those who can think clearly during collective panic. Schopenhauer believed that individuation, the process of becoming fully yourself, required separation from collective thinking and conventional paths. The unmarried man has achieved a degree of individuation that married men following the standard script cannot reach. He's separated himself from biological imperatives, social expectations, and peer pressure to become genuinely individual. This psychological individuation creates a more fully realized human being. He knows who he is because he's had to consciously choose it rather than accepting the default path. This self-knowledge is power. You can't manipulate someone who knows themselves thoroughly because they recognize manipulation when it appears. The unmarried man's relationship with time itself differs fundamentally from the married man's experience. He experiences time as abundant resource rather than scarce constraint. He can invest time in projects with long payoff horizons because he controls his own timeline. He can wait for perfect opportunities rather than accepting whatever's immediately available because timeline pressure from family needs forces decisions. Patient capital is more powerful than desperate capital in every domain. The unmarried man is patient capital in human form. He can wait, can develop slowly, can hold out for optimal rather than acceptable. This patience translates to better outcomes across every dimension of life. The ultimate power the unmarried man holds is power over his own narrative. He's writing his story based on his values and choices rather than following a script written by biology and society. When he reaches the end of his life, he'll be able to evaluate it based on whether he achieved what he actually wanted, rather than whether he met others' expectations. The married man's life is always partially someone else's story, always measured against family obligations and spousal needs. The unmarried man's life is purely his own. He succeeds or fails on his own terms. That ownership of his life's meaning and direction is the deepest form of power available to human beings. Everything I've shared demonstrates why the unmarried man who's built his life consciously and well operates from a position of power that others can only fantasize about. He's free in ways that married men dimly remember from their past. He's capable of decisive action where others require consensus. He's building according to his own design, where others maintain structures they didn't choose. This power isn't accidental or lucky. It's the direct result of choosing autonomy over comfort, independence over security, and genuine freedom over socially approved servitude. Drop a comment right now that says, "I choose power." Those 3 words represent understanding what we've discussed here. Recognition that power flows from independence, and willingness to pursue the path that actually leads to strength rather than the path that promises comfort. Your comment creates accountability, demonstrates to others that this perspective resonates, and builds community among men who prioritize genuine power over conventional approval. The algorithm needs to know this content matters, that there's demand for truth about masculine power and freedom. Subscribe and smash that like button because this channel exists to reveal truths that mainstream narratives desperately want to suppress. Every subscription signals that men are hungry for honest analysis of power dynamics, that we refuse to accept comfortable lies about what actually creates strength and capability in men's lives. You're not just supporting content. You're supporting a movement toward masculine authenticity and genuine power instead of domesticated servitude disguised as maturity. The next video reveals something that will fundamentally alter how you see every interaction between men and women. What I'm about to share explains patterns you've observed your entire life but couldn't quite articulate. The principles I'll reveal operate constantly beneath the surface, invisible to most people but obvious once you understand them. People who grasp these concepts navigate relationships with clarity and power that seems almost unfair to those still operating in darkness. Make absolutely certain you're subscribed, because this next piece completes the picture in ways that will reshape your entire understanding of human dynamics.